Hey there, welcome to the video. This is Eric Lewis from itsthedj.com. What I want to go over today are some things about workflow, arrangement, and mixing, and I want to give you a peek inside into my actual process, and hopefully you'll come away with some tips that will help you in terms of saving time and getting rid of some of the frustration. All right, so the first thing that you're looking at, this is Native Instruments Maschine. Just forget the fact that it's Maschine. Don't become obsessed with the fact that I'm using Maschine. This is just how I produce. Maybe you use Reason, maybe you use Ableton Live. This is where I get my ideas down. This is where I kind of do a lot of my production, particularly drums. So if I start the track from the beginning, I have most of the track fleshed out. So what I'm doing at this point is just making some fine-tunement to the mix. What I'm going to be doing in a minute is exporting all these tracks. So drums, I've got all my drums over here. I've got my hi-hats here. There's even some rides that will come in later. I've got my claps. I've got this background synth thing, and you're going to hear that in a minute. I've got some effects. I call them synth effects that happen great. There's a little vocal sample in purple. You can see where this is interspersed throughout the track. I've got a background ambience or atmosphere thing going on. I've got some shakers that come in from time to time. I have a synth that carries some of the melodic elements of the tune. And then the last thing that I did was I added this kind of pad building distorted sound effect to move me from the first little breakdown of the tune for 8 bars at bar 49 and to the first little drop at bar 57. So I'm going to let you hear everything that I have going on. I'm just giving you an overview. The concept is pretty simple. Here's all my drum tracks, basically kick and sub bass. I'm not using like a musical bass, like a sub bass preset from like a synth or a soft synth. I'm using a sub bass sample that I found in Maschine. Hi-hats. Basically, here's all my groups. So my process, and I don't do this every single time, but I'm getting the arrangement and mix 80% of the way done in Maschine. So I'm going to make sure that my drums are all sounding good, and then I'm going to export this entire drum track that has the kick and the sub and some of the different kicks that occur on some of the ghost notes there, or between the beats, the 4 and the floor beats. It's all going to come into Maschine. So my hi-hats and my rides, they're all going to get mixed down together. My claps, I really only have one, and the snare, they're all going to get mixed together. Well, there's only 2. But you get the idea. When this comes into Ableton, you won't be seeing like 20 some odd tracks. There's really 5, 6, 7, there's like 9 or 10 main elements. Reason I'm exporting to Ableton is that it's a better tool for mixing and arranging. Maschine is really pretty annoying to do a complete track in and get it the way you want. It's very hard to like automate a filter over say 8 to 16 bars because you're forced into this grid of scenes and patterns. So unlike most other DAWs, there is no linear timeline where you can just draw stuff out for as long as you like. So that's kind of a big frustration and sticking point for people in Maschine. That's why I'm going to export. But my goal for exporting is to be able to have something that sounds very good. So I'm not futzing around with compressors and EQ. I'm going to focus on little, arrangement. I'm going to polish the arrangement a little bit more. I want to add more breathing and evolving sound effects in Maschine. In Ableton, it's a better place to do. I call it the automation stage. That's where you add those interesting little fills and bits of ear candy and the atmospheres and stuff that kind of evolve and breathe in the background of your track. I'm going to do that phase of it in Ableton. So really all I've done at this point is I just double checked my levels when I was producing this. I'm going to solo it. So here's my drums. I'm going to go back to the first intro set of beats, and I'm going to loop it. So I had a reverb. And that reverb just made it was too muddy. So when I bring in other elements here, I thought that reverb sounded a bit too muddy and busy. Here's how the other stuff is going to sound. So I'm going to take the reverb out. I may mess with the idea later, but I want to have the reverb only affect the very, very high part of the kick. Right now it's getting the lows, and I don't like that. So it's not making, I'll do that later. So really all I've done is a little bit of processing at the group level. So here's all my kicks and all this stuff. Here are the individual sounds. That's one kick drum. Here's my sub. But then on the group level, think of a group like your mix buses in any other DAW. So if you want to group all of your low-end elements together and then process them the same, so you have some mix glue and whatnot, that's basically what I'm doing here. I have the Studer tape emulation. Basically all I'm doing is I'm just giving every main element, every group that comprises at least 2 or 3 different individual tracks, I'm treating them at the group level to give them a little bit of cohesiveness and warmth and punch. So I'm doing that with the tape machine here, the tape emulation. So I'll let you hear a little bit of before and after. Now watch the Studer. I'm going to turn it off and on. So it's going. So you can tell that it adds some fatness. So I have the Studer on many of my groups here. I've got it on the hi-hat. I've got it on the claps. This will also save me processing. I just want to put a layer of processing on this, kind of set it and forget about it, and then I don't have to worry about doing much group level processing when I get to the mixing stage. The synth thing, this is fine. I'm not doing anything. So pretty much I'm nearly ready to export this as is. This bit of atmosphere, ambiance sound, I'm not doing anything with it. The shaker, I'm leaving as is. This synth sound, I love an LA 2A for a lot of things. The 1176 is also popular. Both of these are old school compressor limiters. So that's with it on. I'll turn it off. And back on. And I usually like the way the Teletronics makes things sit in the mix overall. It's not making a world of difference. But hey, there we go. And then the other reason I'm sending this over to Ableton is right now, this 16-bar intro part of the synth here, that's fine. But when I want to automate stuff later on, so I'm going to keep some of it. When I get into Ableton and want to automate some of this stuff over, say, this many bars from, say, 33 to 49, I want to change different parameters in the synth here. I'm using Native Instruments form. I'm gonna want to change up this this knob here and automate that. It's kind of doing this in Maschine is terrible, so that's why I'm going to export to Ableton. So that's what I got. I'll let you preview a bit more of this track. So that's where I'm at. And in my mind, maybe some of you can tell, maybe not, but some of these transitions here could, like, you know, from whatever this is, 40 something into the breakdown at 49, there could definitely use like some more like white noise and swooshy kind of things going on. It's just a little, you know, it needs more stuff. You know, that could definitely use a little bit of extra swoosh and sparkle, whatever you want to call it. And then how my synth evolves from kind of here out may deserve some redoing. So I'm going to export all this as is for to Ableton right now, arrange it, tweak it, and then when I get to around bar 89 in the mix, I'll evaluate what's going on with my synth. So really what you learned today is I'm not doing much with EQ. I've picked a lot of sounds that all work well together. In another stage, I may roll off low end that's not needed, but for right now, everything is ready to go and be further arranged and mixed, and maybe, you know, redo some parts and do some more live recording in Ableton. I added a bit of tape saturation on some of my drum elements. That includes like the kick, the hi-hat, and the snare. And now everything's ready to be exported, which is very easy. File, export, whatever. That'll take a bit of time, and then I'm ready to import this in Maschine and do the enhancements there. So that's a sneak peek into my workflow. Pretty much all I use is Maschine, Complete 11, and Ableton. I do very, very simple things in Ableton. There's really not much that's advanced that I do. I know about 4 hotkey commands. So yeah. So anyway, what I always say is, you know, you don't need to know 400 some odd things about production in order to get good quality tracks done, signed, and released. If you want to go deeper on any of these topics, really there's 4 main things you need to concern yourself with: how to make ideas that sound good. I'm sure many of you watching already have that covered. And then where I go real deep in my course is arranging. So how do you take your loop and turn it into a track, and then making it nice and interesting, and automating parts, mixing, mastering. That all gets covered in my course. Actually, I don't believe in mastering yourself. I'm a big fan of sending it out. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this sneak peek here into my process, and I'll see you in another video sometime. Bye.